like to call the meeting to order. Councilman Terrio will lead us in the prayer. Councilman Patan will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please, if you don't mind, let's recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We welcome you to the City Parish Council meeting. We, as your representatives in the Lafayette Consolidated Government, welcome your involvement and encourage your participation. This meeting is a public hearing. If you wish to address the Council on any item on this agenda, please fill out a blue Request to Address the Council form, noting the agenda item number. The blue form is available to you in the foyer, and you should submit it to the Council Clerk, Ms. Norma Dugas, seated to my left. It is important to fill in the blue form completely and note the specific agenda item number. If the card is not completely filled out and it is not legible to the clerk, you will not be given the opportunity to speak. In an effort to allow everyone an opportunity to be heard, the 5-minute rule will be in effect. Speakers shall refrain from debating, personal attacks, and making confrontational or derogatory comments. I am requesting the first row to my left be used for media only. Lastly, food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium. Meeting procedures are by resolutions and not by Robert's Rule of Order. Announcements. We'd like to announce our condolences to the family of J.C. Shaguar, who passed away yesterday. We'll now move to council announcements. Councilman Bertrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had asked that Bobby Guidry be here tonight with Republic to discuss some of the issues we've had with pickup after the storm and to help with some of the questions and the phone calls that we've been having, and maybe he can give us an update.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bertrand, thank you for calling us and actually giving us an opportunity to communicate to the public and inform the public of the status of the cleanup, the storm cleanup update. We, especially in light of the calls we've been getting and you have been getting, your staff has been getting, Mr. Durrell, Mr. Stanley, some of the things we needed to communicate and try to communicate as much as we can. I know over the course of the last several weeks, Mark Pope has sent out press releases to try to keep the public informed, and in some cases it's worked, in some cases it hadn't worked quite that well. But if there's one message I want to give tonight, it's, you know, we're blessed that Lafayette, there was a minimal impact of Hurricane Isaac on the Acadiana area. So in a sense, we're blessed with that. And we understand it was a minimal storm or minimal impact, but we do recognize at Allied Waste, we do recognize that those people that were affected by it and still have yard waste or still have storm debris that is yet to be collected, it's still a major issue for them. And so we take it seriously, and we're working with due diligence to get it all collected as soon as possible. I'm also want to take the opportunity to tell you how proud I am to work with employees that we have that have worked day in and day out. I'm going to tell you that every employee, and I've had this discussion with a couple of you already, every employee is working their maximum hours. The drivers are limited to 60 hours per week, so if you think in those terms, it's 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and that's been going on since the commencement of the storm. Every employee is working maximum hours. Every truck is filled to capacity every day, including a couple of Sundays. One Sunday, I think it was last Sunday, we had trucks that we ended up having on the road. We filled them to capacity and had no place to dispose of them, couldn't empty them, so we had to shut it down on that Sunday. Also on Labor Day, we started on Labor Day, which would have normally been a holiday for us, and we elected to begin collection, and our employees worked at that time and gave up their holiday. So, you know, our employees, I'm going to tell you, they work hard, and they deserve whatever little credit that we give them at times, but I'm proud to work with them. I want to give you right off the bat, because I know a lot of the comments that you receive, and I've seen through the emails about our contract. Of course, it just so happens that we just went through contract negotiations and extended our contract. But just a technical update, just for information purposes, I think you already know this, but I want the public to know that in our collection contract, as your normal solid waste and yard waste collector contractor, our contractor specifically states in Article 3.02, work not covered by the contract. The work under this contract does not include the collection or disposal of any increased volume resulting from torrential rain, extraordinary flooding, extraordinary wind, hurricanes, and so on, or different act of God's over which contractor has no control. So, from a technical standpoint, we're not required to pick up the material we've been picking up. But we've always taken the position that this is a partnership, and if it's a true public-private partnership, we have to do our share. So we've always been open to that discussion. The day following the storm, when I met at the Emergency Operations Center with the president was there, Mr. Stanley was there, Tom Carroll, all the chiefs of police and fire chiefs from the parish were around, and they were shutting down the operations, and I told them at that time, our operations were just beginning. The approach we took that morning, that Thursday morning following the storm, our trucks began operating at daylight hours. Remember, there was a curfew in place, so we started operating immediately. As soon as we could, we had trucks on the road and we were operating. We started operating, and actually our yard waste trucks started running. It was the Wednesday route. We did not run on the Wednesday because the storm came through town, so we started on our Wednesday route, and we went through with our yard waste trucks picking up bags. We did that for the first, up until the Memorial Day, Labor Day, which was Monday, and the reason we picked up bags and left the brush behind was, at that point in time, we did not know whether a storm debris contractor was going to be called upon to pick up the storm debris. Had a storm debris contractor, and based on past years with storm debris contractors, they come in and they don't pick up bags. They don't pick up bulky waste. They don't pick up old food. Although many of those items may have been impacted as part of the storm, they don't pick up that material. So we focused on the garbage first, and we focused on the bags, not knowing whether a storm debris contractor was coming in. That's the reason why we did that. We didn't wait for somebody to say, well, let's decide whether somebody else is going to have to pick it up. This is our community. We jumped in and started picking it up. On Labor Day, that following Monday, when the decision was made, it was a minimal storm. In discussions with Public Works, the decision was made, let's go ahead and try to pick it up with our crews, and we could get some additional, what we call blue crews from outside the area to come in and assist us with it. I still firmly believe, although some of the calls that we get and some of the people you've talked to might think it's not necessarily in the best interest, but I firmly believe it's in the best interest, because y'all just went through the budget process and you don't have a great deal of money standing around to be able to pay a storm debris contractor. We jumped into this deal with the understanding that we're going to clean it up, and as we've done in years past, we're going to make a year-over-year comparison, and the only thing we're going to look to recover is our cost that was over and above what we normally would run during that same period of time. We accept all the risks. Allied Waste accepts all the risks. We're going to pick it up, and at the end of the day, we're going to come to Public Works. We're going to lay out whatever documentation you want to show that this is the amount of hours we work, this is the volume we've picked up, and this is a fair charge that we believe for those services. At the end of the day, you make the decision, or Lafayette Consolidated Government makes the decision whether it's a fair charge or not, or they make a determination of what a fair charge is, and they pay based on that. So in light of all the, and I know some of the public doesn't see some of the emails that you get, but just wanted to give you that information. Let me give you a sequence of events that as I said, the Wednesday, Isaac came to town. Thursday, we started in daylight hours. We started picking up household waste. That first week, we picked up in the carts and anything that was outside of the cart, which was bags or boxed or containerized. That's the first week. Again, that'd be material that storm debris contractor would not have picked up. Also, I might add, and you can check, but I'm sure Tom Carroll would confirm, had a storm debris contractor been selected or had been told to come to work, it would have probably taken 2 weeks before they would have been able to deploy their people anyway, because there's so many things that they have to do to get set up before they pick up their first branch. So we were actually on the streets working in advance of that. On that Monday, the Labor Day is when we started picking up bags. We actually had Greg Schultz, who's our general manager, provided the leadership, and we followed. Greg got in his pickup truck, I got in mine, attached to a trailer to mine. We had managers that came over from Lake Charles. We had all of our supervisors and our management staff out on the streets in pickup trucks, in whatever we could put. Whatever, if we would have had a Volkswagen bus, we would have filled up the Volkswagen bus with leaves and bags of leaves and tried to pick it up to get this material off. And we did that for a number of days until our crews should actually get set up and start running their regular routes, or try to get as close to their regular routes. So the timeline on what we've picked up to date, excuse me, is on our Monday routes, and the decision was to run Monday route first, then Tuesday, then Wednesday. And hopefully we will pick up everything within those areas. Our Monday route, it ran from the 3rd, which was Labor Day, and it ran for 4.5 days. The Tuesday route, we started on the 7th, half a day on the 7th, and ran on the 8th through the 13th. It took 5.5 days for the Tuesday route. The Wednesday route ran from the 13th through the 17th, that's 4 days. The Thursday route, the 18th through the 20th, that's 3 days. And the Friday route, the 21st through the 20th, through the day, which was a half a day. We had a route and a quarter left this morning. About noon, I believe, what we picked up was 3.5 days. So you're looking at a total of 20.5 days for the first pass. During that 20.5 days, is it possible that some people have not been picked up during that first pass? Yes, it is very possible. And I'm going to tell you why. If we had assistance from other people that came from out of the area to help us run the routes, we had whatever drivers that we had available, we put them on routes. That meant we split up routes. We gave them a map, we gave them an area to go in. The first pass was basically a shotgun approach where we had to go in and pick up as much as we could, as fast as we could. That was the idea. Pick up as much as you can. It's a big elephant out there. Try to pick up the whole elephant and carry him off. We did that. If a driver that was not familiar with an area happened to take a right turn instead of a left turn, there's a great possibility he missed a whole street or missed a whole subdivision. So those errors exist, and we apologize if we made those errors. But those errors were made by people with good intentions of trying to clean up the parish, all right? And again, it's because of the massive task which was at hand, to pick up as much as we can. What we want to do going forward with the second pass, and I'm going to ask your assistance, and there was one that came up, it was a good example earlier, I'm not going to say specifically, but one of the issues that created some delays for us was pulling trucks off a route, because we were getting, whether the emails are coming from the council office or from the administration or different places were kind of considered hot spots. We ended up having trucks that we were pulling off route to go to what was considered a hot spot. I know in one example for sure, in this particular example that I spoke to earlier, we sent a truck to a hot spot and there was only three garbage cans of yard waste on that hot spot. We can't do that. What it did, it created a situation where we had a truck working in the East Bayou Parkway area, had to leave that route to go across to the West Bayou Parkway, across the river, and start up collecting in a different area. What we're asking, now that we've been through that first pass, what we want to do is every driver, again, will be given a map. Every driver will be expected to run every street on that map, and every driver is going to be expected to highlight or cross over and show that we've run every street. So now the focus is going to be targeted on cleaning the streets. Instead of picking up as much as we can, we want to make sure we pick up everything on this next pass. It's going to take a little bit less time than it did the first pass, but it's still going to take longer than our normal route. So again, the order of the day and the request that I've had numerous times is patience and prayers. You know, if people are just patient, it's going to take us a little while to get through this, but hopefully by next week, I think we can see some daylight at the end of that tunnel, and we should get to that point in time. And we are available to answer any questions or address any concerns you might have.
Thank you, Bobby. And thank you, Greg, and thanks to your staff for all the work that I know you've been doing over the last several weeks. My only comment is that I think we need to make sure that we under-promise and over-deliver. I think quite often we raise expectations by trying to let folks know that we're going to get to them right away, and then when we can't, the level of disappointment just gets greater. And then that coupled with, you know, the regular issues that you deal with from time to time, somebody missing somebody's trash pickup or whatever, just exacerbates the problem. What I would like to be able to let people know tonight with this pickup is, what do you think the time frame is going to be? And I would rather you give me a longer time frame than I'd rather you not sugarcoat it. Let the people in the community know how much time we're looking at to finish pickup in the parish, so that they understand the magnitude of, despite the fact that it was a small storm, that there was a lot of debris pickup. So what can we possibly expect over the next couple of weeks?
And I tell you, I totally agree with you. And in fact, that particular comment was told to me by Greg earlier. From the beginning, we looked at it and we thought it was going to be 30 to 45 days to clean up. Normal storm operations, they usually have 90 days. There's a couple of times, and it actually happened with you, Mr. Bertrand, and with Mr. Boudreau, where I gave you all some dates and expectations that we were going to be in that area. The next thing I knew, we were not in that area. And I'm going to tell you, part of that problem, although it's our problem and our fault, is from pulling trucks off of routes, thinking we're working an area, and all of a sudden it got pulled because some other area seemed to demand it more and ended up delaying when we should have completed. Having said that, moving forward, realistically, moving forward, we want to be able to work the Monday area first and make sure every street is completed on the Monday area before we move it, not pull any trucks off of that route to go to some other area that said, well, we haven't. I had one today before I walked in, said they haven't been serviced in 7 weeks. Of course, we're hearing about it now, but it's been 7 weeks since it's been supposedly haven't been serviced. We can't pull a truck off of that route to go check on that one right there. We have to go through the process that we have in place. If we do that, the amount of volume that's out there, we would expect that each route day would be less than 3 days each, so that's 15 days. Realistically, I think it's probably 2 days per route day. So you're looking at another 10 working days before I think we get back to normal. I think we should be able. There's some areas, as in your district, in the East Bayou Parkway area, I think it's heavy. Mr. Narcan's district down the St. Street area. You know, we got people that live on the St. Street area and off of West Congress that think we're the best thing since sliced bread because they got cleaned up first. But then on the other side of town, in Mr. Terrio's district, who happened to be the Friday collection district, it's, you know, it wasn't because it's Mr. Terrio, it's just it's the Friday collection district. They were last. So, but realistically, 2 days per route day is what we believe can happen if we're allowed to work the way. and leave our trucks on the road, let them run our routes. Just, people have patience. All we're asking them is wait 2 more weeks. And I don't have a problem with the calls coming in and receiving the calls and the emails, because that way we can go back through it and look at it. But our people, and to their benefit, especially our supervisors, wanting to be so responsive to consolidated government that whenever they would see an official email or something that communication that came from consolidated government, looks like they wanted to drop everything they were doing and move to take care of that. And all that was creating a problem. So because there was a massive effort at the beginning and trying to clean up as much as we could, I kind of allowed that to happen. But moving forward from here on out, we're going to be firm. I think we have to hold firm and say, just be patient. We're going to get there, and then let me know the name of the street. We'll confirm it. We've actually had meetings. Greg and his staff have already had meetings with our drivers. If you tell us you did this street and it's marked on your route sheet and you've highlighted that street has been picked up, and we drive over there and it has not, that's disciplinary action. That's immediate disciplinary action on that. So it's a serious offense. So I don't know if 10 days will help you, 2 days per route day. I wish I could be more specific than that, but again.
Well, the important thing is that you can do it in 10 days. That's what's important to me, is that if it's 10 days worth of work that you think you have left to get there, that's fine. I would prefer it not be 12. I
don't want it to be 10 and a half.
So I appreciate that. I think there are some other council members that might have questions, and I'll give them an opportunity to speak as well.
Councilman Andy Narcan.
Gentlemen, I want to thank y'all both for the efforts y'all put in. I know personally, Bobby, in particular, that you and I have communicated before, and you've been out, I know personally, many times to try to assist constituents in getting their problems resolved. In observance, I've also seen quite often the abuses that have been put on you guys, because I'm looking at couches, mattresses, children's furniture. It look like people cleaned out their attics and put on the side of the road after this storm. So I know you all accepted quite a burden in what y'all are doing, and I appreciate the efforts, I really do. Especially, y'all don't come to us and complain at all. Y'all really haven't. One thing I'm curious though, in this pickup, naturally we have a large portion of the problem is the large volume of the large waste to be picked up. And I'm talking about the logs, the huge branches that are just put out there that are enormous in size. I would assume that you have special equipment to do that, to address those large piles, don't y'all?
We do have a knuckle boom that has the ability to pick up those larger piles. Now, there is an issue right now about some of that material that we believe is being cut by third-party contractors that are just taking advantage of the opportunity to put that material out. And anytime we have a question with that, we get with Mark Pope and Russell and their staff, and we work that out. We basically leaving that behind because it's questionable. Yeah. We're gonna, you know, if we have to pick it up later, we'll pick it up later. But we think we believe, and I think you have a discussion item later on that addresses that.
And I've seen that also, Bob, because in my tracks during the course of the day, I see all of a sudden a whole tree appear on the side of the road all of a sudden, you know, and I know you guys didn't, that wasn't storm damage. But my real concern is the regular yard waste pickup that has not been picked up. Is there any possible way that you guys can get back to regular route basis on just those yard waste, the cans full of grass, the bags full of leaves that have been sitting there for 3 weeks, and address the large issues with your large equipment in a normal way that y'all normally would with storm damage?
Well, because we're actually trying to do that, and everything that we can pick up with a rear loader with manual collection, we're picking up.
Right.
Even though there's the larger piles, but there's no way to distinguish, you know, and really there's no fault to the resident. What happened, I heard Tom describing this to someone the other day. The storm came through and knocked out a bunch of branches and leaves. well, while they were out there, they decided, well, let me go ahead and clean up and do a little pruning, which is not a big deal, and so that kind of added to it. And it's not a negative. It's something that the citizens can do and they have every right to do, but it kind of slowed the process. But
Right.
But in order to do it, we can't distinguish, or we don't distinguish between what we think. We have to make a decision. Well, is that storm debris or is that regular yard waste? And that's where a lot of the calls came in about, well, this is not storm debris. This is stuff that's I just put out 2 weeks ago, and it's confusing to the public because yeah, they're expecting their normal collection, but the normal collection is everything's being picked up by our normal routes.
Right, and that's what I was getting at is these normal yard wastes, which have been neglected. That's what people's concerns are right now. And the fact that this is another thing, that issue that's come up, is they're breeding grounds for the mosquitoes.
Right.
Especially the normal yard waste with the cans that hold moisture. Even though they have holes in the bottom of cans, I know mine do, but there's moisture in there. And part of the problem is the mosquito breeding areas that are being, thank goodness we've had dry areas lately. It hasn't been that wet, so there's not as much moisture as there could be. But I think that sooner we can get to the normal resumption of the regular yard waste collection and address the large storm waste with your special trucks that you have, probably the better off we'd be as far as constituents and complaints as to what's going on. But the burden put on you guys has been enormous, I know, especially when it's been extended by people taking advantage of your situation. And I do appreciate you guys' efforts, but I would try to consider that somehow in y'all's organization and in the pickups to get back as quickly as possible to the normal yard waste collection. The bags, the trash cans full, those are simple to go around and dump, in my opinion. But then again, I'm not doing your job, so.
But that's in your particular instance today, is your area, most of the areas in Monday route. We started in the Monday area today.
Right.
So we're going to be there, and we're actually running through, and that's the approach I was telling you about, this rifle approach. Anything that's on the street right now, we're going to clean it up, and when we leave that street, it's going to be clean. We were taking that approach with the big, massive piles and try to clean up a storm as much as possible.
Right.
But now we're going to make sure every can is emptied, every bag is picked up, and any piles. We still have our knuckle boom truck that comes in and picks up those massive piles, and it takes a little time for that. But all the bags and the containers, you can expect them to be dumped soon.
Bobby, you know I'm out traveling a lot every day. If you need me to call in any observances I see, if you want to contact me on a regular basis and tell me where you are, if I see something, please feel free to do so. Because I'd be glad to help you in directing your drivers to the areas that you think might need to be addressed. But I have seen a lot of instances where y'all have been taken advantage of, and I appreciate y'all's efforts very much. But communication, just give me a holler if you need anything.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you.
Councilman Boudreaux.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, I guess, as we go forward, I'm going to make the suggestion again. One of the issues that I contacted you guys about was the deployment of services throughout the city. And the record reflected that when you first made us aware of how you were going to start and complete a particular route before moving on, that was when it was anticipated that it would take on average of 2 days to do that route. And, of course, that didn't happen by no fault of any particular person. I would then say that we're going to need to have something in place that requires a little bit more, I guess, flexibility. Because, you know, the fact of the matter is, whether it was the Friday route guys, some people do have to wait longer than others. Tom, could you come up, please? The comparison, if we was to be under FEMA regulations and if we was to bring in a debris contractor, the amount of time it would take for them to get here, get on location, get mobilized. But how would they be deployed? Once they're deployed, I know we have monitors who go with our contractors to pick up debris. How would they be deployed? Would we send them on a particular day and have them to do that day and finish it? Or would we offer services throughout our coverage area?
If I could, I'd like to give this to Norma to pass out to you, and I would tell you what would be the difference with a FEMA deployment. the major difference in this event as it unfolded, as opposed to a more significant event like we've been through in the past few years, with FEMA participation. We have a pre-positioned contract that we would call in that contract actually to help us in the first 70-hour push, as it's called. It's not a 72, it's a 70-hour push that they help us clear the streets, which normally our crews do that. Our crews get out there with dozers, excavators, and whatever and clear the streets, but the contractor can actually come in there and do it. With a pre-positioned contract, we would have the possibility of having a contract in here readily. Now, there again, like Bobby mentioned, and I mentioned last week, we were extremely blessed because we had a minor event compared to what happened in southeast Louisiana and the rest of Mississippi and those areas. So first off, I think our contractor may have had a problem getting a suitable number of trucks in here to clean an event, especially when the multitude of or the magnitude of the damage in the rest of the state. Secondly, we talked about that early on. It really wasn't fair to call in a debris contractor to come in and collect what to him would be a relatively minor amount of debris at the price he had quoted. I mean, that price being quoted, normally they're collecting 250,000 yards of debris or whatever. The last event we had, they collected 300,000 yards of debris. That would not be the case here. If we called in FEMA, we also have a debris monitoring contractor that has to go with every truck. They measure every truck, they accompany every truck, they take a picture of every pile they pick up, they have it GPSed, so FEMA can look to make sure we're picking up appropriate storm debris. The pictures I showed, I took the first week of the storm in coming to work. People use the opportunity, like Councilman Knocking has said, to bring anything and everything out to the curb. I talked to Mr. Durrell and Mr. Stanley. When people started doing that, my instructions were get Lafayette cleaned up. And that's where we engaged, you know, obviously Allied Waste Services. What you see in that first picture would never have been approved by FEMA. So in trying to collect something like that, the debris monitor would have said, well, you can pick up this little piece of the pile, but not this piece of the pile. So it's bad enough we're getting calls for people that think we need to be going quicker, but the problem is people who brought all this out to the curb, we wouldn't have picked it up at all. Then we would have had a multitude of calls. So it's really been a unique event. You know, there again, we went through the Lily, through the Rita and then Gustav and Ike back in 2008. So this one's just been different. We tried to make the best of what we had, tried to engage Allied rather than calling in a debris contract, because I don't think that would have been appropriate here. But FEMA is looking for a monitor to every collection you make. That our monitor has to take a picture. It's got to be GPSed, so we can validate that, and FEMA can validate it. When they bring it to a spot to dump, wherever our dumping location is, there is a tower there. That we have a monitor up on that tower to look at the loads coming in, to make sure it's debris, to make sure the loads, if they're coming in with whatever 50 yards, that they got 50 yards in that truck. So it is a much more detailed and documented process than what we're going through here.
Okay, all right. What I was trying to get to was these pictures, anything that is out of compliance, like in our normal garbage waste contract, I don't have a problem at all telling people it's not in compliance. Never had, never will be. What I was asking is, Bobby had mentioned that if a debris contractor specifically for storm debris, shrubbery, branches, trees, limbs appropriately cut by a resident, how would they have serviced the area is what I'm asking. Not from monitoring and the cost perspective, but how would they have been deployed? Because
I apologize.
That's
what we did last time, the debris monitor comes in and he selects the way he is going to logistically handle that. I can assure you, they're going to look at where the biggest bulk of the debris is, and they're going to hit those areas first, because that's where they're getting the most amount of money. We had that issue in 2008, and I've heard from several of you, Mr. Castillo shaking his head. When they hit the areas that were hit hardest, and then after that, unfortunately, the Galveston area got got hit by Ike, and they lost half their drivers because there was big bucks over there to go collect that. So it is left up to the debris monitoring contractor as to how logistically he's going to manage his crews. Typically, they'll split that up into 6, 7 zones throughout the parish. But, you know, unfortunately, the people who have the least amount of debris are going to be left last. In this particular case, we're hitting regular pickup zones, so you may have not had any debris, but we're in those zones. So with the debris monitoring contract, those people probably would have been last.
Well, from my experiences in the 08 event, we've had people in multiple areas, and that's what I'm leading to.
Yep.
It's, for me, it has always been and it will always be about balance. And, you know, I don't have a problem telling people to be patient. I don't have a problem telling people we're coming. We had to do that. We make projections. Sometimes we miss our mark. When we miss our mark, we regroup. The difference between, in my opinion, a debris contract is, like you said, normally they'll break up into 6 or 7 quadrants. With this, on a first experience using our in-house, I'm going to call them our in-house contractor, we went day to day. And what I would look for in the future is that we could consider breaking them up into quadrants, because we're not talking about regular yard waste, as has been very well explained here. We're talking about things that derived from a storm event. And what that does for me as a council member, what it does for the residents of our community is that it sees activity throughout the city and the parish, which I think is extremely significant. We used to go through that often. You had the people who would swear that when the power went out, all the utility companies was in one area only, and that wasn't necessarily the case when you are able to show them. I mean, there were trucks on the Northgate Mall's parking lot for instance, and people was like, oh, I can't believe there's trucks on standby. It just sends such a great message to see work being done. I communicated directly with Bobby on a number of occasions. I knew work was being done. It was being done in a particular area based on the day that the storm event took place and going forward. What I have suggested and what I'm going to continue to ask for is that we consider spreading that out. So those Friday people, or the Thursday people, or the Wednesday people, based on when the event took place, since they were not able to be serviced at that time, and we go back to the Monday, then that created the 4-week delay for some of those. Now, a particular resident may still have that same level of delay, but they will be able to cross someone providing a service somewhere in their area. Someone in an area is getting service as opposed to all the service being isolated to an area. The questions that I sent out earlier that Bobby responded to as it relates to pictures like this is that I would like to know weather delays, because I was under the impression that some of the delays came because of the abuse that was taking place by residents. Well, the abuse could have only been taking place where the service was being provided. It couldn't have been taking place where there was nobody working at the time. And I felt that that became significant because we're telling Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're coming. We're coming. Hold on, we're coming, with the threat of additional rain to come. So if we could just deploy throughout as opposed to one area, I think that would create a much better scenario for us as a government, for the city of Lafayette as well as the parish of Lafayette, and then we could just have service taking place everywhere as opposed to just one isolated area.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and you know, now obviously that's Greg and Bobby will have to consider that. Right. I can assure you the abuse crossed every council line.
But it crossed, but the delays was caused only where work was being done. Because I seen it out in my area too. I experienced, when we get to the solid waste amendments, there's going to be some abuse outside of storm events. And that's what I've been trying to get people to understand, is that some people have to deal with something on special occasions and unusual occurrences. Some communities deal with it every day. And that's the thing. So I agree. And we've had to address those issues and try to work through them and create the necessary laws to correct them. So I'm familiar with it. Yeah. But the abuse existed everywhere. I've seen people putting things out. But that wasn't even in the area of consideration at the time. The delays when I first made contact was like, they got people putting stuff out here that just don't belong. Well, pass it up. Okay? Honor the contract, or do what you feel is the right thing to do. But we chose to pick it up, which caused the delays for the other people.
And that is a legitimate choice that we made, and I understand, pass it up. But I can assure you, we'd have been bombarded with probably 10 times the call we got had we left this type of debris on the curb.
Yeah, yeah, from different people.
Absolutely.
From different people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't mind when the complaints come from all over. I don't mind when everybody is suffering to the same degree. I have a problem when certain people are suffering only. That's where the problem always exists. I've never had a problem when we're going to do something and everybody is sharing it across the board. But when it constantly falls on the shoulders and the backs of the same communities over and over, I'm going to have a problem with that. So that's what I'm saying. But the abuse, when we're going to get to the area, you know, there's some stuff going on now that needs to be addressed that's abusive by landowners. And I want to address it. I want to hold the landowner accountable. But in this instance, whenever it's going to be our contractor or a special debris contractor, I'm saying that I think that we could consider deploying services throughout. People could see work taking place everywhere. People could feel that they're on level with everything, and you don't have to battle these issues of why they're doing work over there.
And I don't want to delay it and debate, but even in that case where we had, in the last major storm event, where we had 6 or 7 regions set up, and I can defer back to Mr. Castile, where you had a region that was extensive. Why are they picking up in this portion of the region and not that portion of the region? And it was several weeks before they got to that portion. So even when you split it up in that, you still have the same arguments of why are they there and not here. I don't know that there's a perfect solution. What becomes the most logical thing, though? I understand that. That goes to you can't satisfy everybody. I understand that. But logical people, can we not agree that I'd rather be in 6 locations at one time as opposed to 1 location at one time? And we're going to leave
spread it out a little more.
Yeah, we're going to defer to Allied to see if there's some way that logistically maybe they can honor what you're asking for.
I'll address that. If you want it picked up in a timely fashion, the process that we're taking is the quickest and easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you know, if I have 9 trucks, I'm going to put 1 truck in each council district and let them work.
Not council districts.
No,
not council districts.
No, I'm just using it as an example. If you divide that as a grid,
well, it's going to be misleading.
I'm looking at 9 right here. So if I had a grid and I took and it's the council districts are grid throughout the parish.
On 5 days. Don't say council districts.
Okay, 5 days.
Say,
1 truck in each day.
If I could put 2 trucks in each pickup zone, the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday. Because it's not about individuals. I don't want to go there. It's not about personalities or individuals. It's about pickup days. That's what we're talking about.
And that's what we're doing. We're doing by days. So to have all our forces together, to be able to help each other out and be in the area and clean up is why we're doing it in days and keeping an area as opposed to having 2 trucks on one end of the parish. The example I used earlier, how we got pulled off a route because we were on one side of the river and they wanted us to go in a hot spot on the other side. Well, all of a sudden that truck got pulled off and went to another area. Yeah, it's working in another area, but was it being effective and was it picking up as much as it could?
Well, that's the same thing
it was
I
delayed.
asked for.
So if we had everyone in one area.
How did that pull-off take place?
It had a request that came through. It was a hotspot request that came through from the council. Okay. On that particular example, and actually it was an error on our part because of the sound of the street name. I don't want to give away the street name because. But you
see what I'm saying, Bobby? We pulled a hotspot request based on an individual. I didn't ask for a hotspot request. You know what I asked for? Equal deployment. Right. Now, again, I'm going to go to rational people. What is better, equal deployment or pull off to a hotspot? Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Balance. That's all.
I agree. I totally agree. And that equal deployment is allow us to use our resources as we think best to be able to get it up as quick as possible, rather than someone else that's not in the industry to tell us how to do it and where to do it. If we can come through and sweep and pick up as quickly as possible, get it up, I promise you, our people want to get this material off the street as quickly as possible because they're the ones that are missing out on the Saturday soccer games, you know, with their families. So they want it back, but we're trying to sweep and trying to do it using the limited resources that we have. Keep in mind everything comes associated with cost, and I think a lot of the decision to us to be in this position to pick it up ourselves was because of the benefit to the taxpaying public. You know, no one, you know, I've seen the emails come through. They all want refunds because we're not providing a service. but yet we're spending more hours picking up more trash, and at this point in time, we don't know if we're even going to collect for that. So no one has ever, and I've never talked to Tom about what we're going to send them a bill for, or whether we're going to send them a bill. No citizen has been told, I'm going to send you a bill for the extra stuff that I pick you up. So we're trying to get it picked up in the most economical way that we can, and in the fastest way, quickest way we can. And I think, I really, as I said earlier, I firmly believe it's in the best interest of the people of Lafayette. As the way we're working it and cleaning it up, all we simply ask for is patience. We've got 2 more weeks to get through this ordeal, and we'll get through it.
Okay. Well, I haven't worked in the industry,
Mr.
and I'm
Boudreaux,
not
let me
trying
tell
to
you,
take...
you're always the first to want to sit down and talk to me about better ways to do this, and I sincerely appreciate it, because you have always been very cooperative, and your recommendations and your suggestions were, we discussed it. Anything that comes from Mr. Boudreaux, I'll tell you, we take it seriously, all right? Because you've got some great ideas, so we appreciate that.
Just him, Bobby?
But when it comes to picking up garbage, I think I trump you on that one.
Absolutely. And that's what I was about to say. I've never worked in the industry, and I'm certainly not trying to tell anybody how to do their job. But you have been an elected official, and I am an elected official. And at the end of the day, when services are being offered, people are looking out to see who's providing the services, where's the services being provided. And all I ask is, as an official, if you put your official hat back on for a second, when I could understand that someone can be pulled off a hotspot, but yet someone cannot be deployed to an area just to create balance, how am I supposed to feel?
Yeah, and that's, again, that's not by my authorization, and that's been corrected. So I've communicated that's not the correct way to do it, and that was one of the problems what we found looking into it. So that's being corrected. But I agree. I know about the activity in different areas. If you see activity, yeah, it's great. It's going to be a truck working in those areas. But again, like Tom said, well, you're on that street. When are you going to get to mine? Well, you know, if we had 6 trucks in that area, we might be able to get to that second street a lot quicker.
Just one other thing, you know, we talked about hotspots, and I know you're trying to get on with Ms. Beller. There have been no instances where a member of this council, the administration, or my staff sent them an email and said, you have to go here.
No.
They would just get a report that it's been missed here, and they made those decisions that, oop, that's coming from an official, we better go over there. So that's a decision I think they handled in-house, and I believe that's been corrected on their part.
Yeah, and I thought I had made that clear earlier. That is correct. It's just in our supervisor's zeal, I guess, to be responsive to this government, is that when we see something that comes from it, and I want everybody to understand, even, you know, and I've had this discussion with Mark Pope and his staff, we get something from consolidated government, it's official. That means somebody's got to jump on it right away, and that's kind of been our response, and what I want from our people. We want to jump on it right away, but right now, when they do that, they're losing focus of what our main task is, and that's to get the city cleaned up. So I always want them to be responsive, but no one councilman said, come to my district first, and the administration didn't say, clean this area first. So, you know, we thought we did it the politically correct way as Monday. Since Mr. Knockan is the newest on the council, we figured he'd be the first one we'd service his area first. No, it just so happened he has a Monday area.
Well, you know, again, I want the record to reflect, I didn't imply that anyone asked for it. How it got done personally don't even matter to me. It happened. And I know that, and you've seen my emails, all I asked you for was updates. That's all I requested. When the updates was coming through and the delays were identified, I asked for a reconsideration, because no one, the company, the department, the administration, nor the council anticipated the longer delays. So I asked for a reconsideration. It was reconsidered. Obviously, it was found to not be the most effective, efficient means to go. And we moved on. But now we hear that things happen, okay? And I'm being told that it was the contractor's decisions that it's been corrected. So I will tell you that as a council person, that when I'm fielding my constituents' calls and I'm asking them for patience as I'm being told to do so, and I'm giving them updates as they come to me, that the center point in this situation is you guys. And for something to slip through for whatever council member it may have benefited or whatever area it may have benefited, for something to slip through, that does go there. Because I could have rather than fielding my calls, we could have applied the same measures all over.
Right.
So,
and the information we give you needs to be accurate, because I will say that you did request information one time. I said, let me check on it. I found out it was wrong information that I gave to you. You communicated that to your constituents, and both you and I became a victim of poor communication.
Human error. And that's what I'm saying, Bobby. Those things happen.
Yeah.
It's not about the human aspect of things. It's about, at the end of the day, the delivery of services. The human error, we got to expect that, okay? No one is questioning the work ethic. Everybody worked hard. I seen the trucks where they were working. That's not what's in question. And sometimes I think when we have these conversations, people don't understand what's the intent of the conversation. The only thing that I want to come out of this, can we service more people at one time to let everyone know that service is there? That's it. It's not about how hard your guys worked. It's not about if a miscommunication took place. It's about just being considered. That's going to always be an issue. Even outside of Allied Waste, that's an issue within this government as it relates to how we serve our communities. We've gotten better than we've ever been, but we still got work to do. And until we start taking down those divisional lines, taking down those points of identity, locations on maps, we're going to struggle with that. We have to view this thing as one Lafayette with the same level of service going out throughout. That's all. That's all it's about. It's not about anything else. So, but we'll talk a little later about the solid waste contract.
Agreed.
Councilman Pate?
Thank you. I appreciate everything that y'all have done. It's a shame they got a lot of angry people out there for such a small storm. But I want you to go over one more point, or a point over again. I think a lot of people don't understand. If you have debris at your house and you do the work yourself and you trim and you cut and you haul it to the street, you're going to pick it up. Correct?
It is, if it's placed in compliance, which is the minimum requirements of the contract, the proper length and right, we will pick it up.
Absolutely. On the other hand, if they hire somebody and somebody else cuts that tree down and hauls it to the front, you're not going to pick it up.
That's a point of dispute right now because of an opinion that was given, and I think you are going to have a discussion on that on the change in your code. It's never been the intent, and I have yet to meet anyone with this governmental body or any governmental body in the state of Louisiana that has ever said it's been the intent of the normal solid waste, residential solid waste contractor to collect material that's generated by a third-party contractor, because there is a loophole in your code. And when it gets to that item, we can probably, I'd love to discuss it further, but there's a loophole in that code that might allow those contractors to take advantage of that loophole and put their material at the road. The position that environmental quality has taken is that if it's placed in compliance at the curb, they expect us to pick it up. Our position is the code. And I'll be happy to read it to you if you want me to read it to you right now and let you get your own opinion of it.
You don't have to read the whole thing here.
I can read the beginning of it.
If we're going to be discussing this in a discussion item.
You're going to be talking about it as the last item. It's a discussion item?
We can wait for a discussion.
It's up to you, Mr. Pate, because you have the floor.
I've just had a lot of calls.
Because look at the code, yeah, look at that code. It's never been the intent, or is it the intent right now for us to pick up material generated by a third-party contractor? Think about it. If somebody has a piece of equipment, that's what they do for a living. They hire out. They push that equipment to the road, and you expect our people to pick it up. That's never been the intent of anyone. No government body that I'm aware of. The city of Scott picks up their own yard waste. They don't accept that material and will not pick up. There's no government body in the state of Louisiana that I'm aware of that collects that material. So, and we do not want to collect the material. We don't think we should have to collect the material.
So, at the tail end of the discussion, if environmental quality and Mark Pope or whoever it is, his designated person, if they make a determination that it would be picked up, then you'd pick it up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're actually picking up the material right now. If when it comes down to it, if environmental quality tells us we have to pick it up, we pick it up if it's in compliance. Correct.
Okay.
It's
just confusing out there for some.
Well, it shouldn't be confusing. Actually, you think you're confused now? Wait till you read the code.
There are some where it's clear they had to hire somebody with a crane because it's 4 feet in diameter and it's in the front yard.
But actually, the language of the code, and I look forward to that discussion later on. The language of the code, you will see what I mean by it. It's clear to me that we're not required.
All right, that's fine. That's it. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Patin. Seeing no other discussion, thank you all, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'd like to give a Lafayette Comprehensive Plan update. Thanks to those of you who completed the downtown survey. The feedback from the survey and the open house provided information to the consultant regarding the strengths and opportunities for downtown. The next downtown event will be the Downtown Summit on the evening of Tuesday, October 30th. At this public forum, the consultant will be looking for feedback on various aspects of downtown and its future. More details are to come. Work continues on the overall comprehensive plan. The consultants are compiling data and issues that will lay the foundation for the next community forum series, which will be in November. If you have any questions, please call Kathy Gilbert at 291-8454. We'll now move to the Executive President's Report. I'd like to recognize City Parish President, Mr. Joey Durrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call a group of people up to the podium who would like to give you a brief presentation and about an event that took place recently. And I'll tell you who these ladies are with the Master Gardeners in Lafayette, and they're going to talk about the plant sale that took place a couple of weekends ago at the horse farm. And what I want to make sure I say is that while I didn't know that the horse farm would really be ready for an event or a function, the reason I felt it was okay for the Master Gardeners to go out there and do what they did more than anything is because in our agreement with the university, it is very likely that the Master Gardeners will end up being housed at the horse farm. And so with what y'all were doing, I thought it was very appropriate that you had your plant sale at the horse farm. And as it turns out, y'all did an awesome job, gave an unbelievable event. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you and introduce yourself and others if you want, but at least tell us who you are. And
my name is Stacy Lee, and I'm the General Chair of Plant Fest for the Lafayette Parish Master Gardeners Association. On their behalf, and on behalf of the local gardeners we support, we want to thank this council for its vision and its foresight in securing the horse farm property for use as a passive park. The Lafayette Master Gardeners perform many functions in furtherance of our mission of education and service for home gardeners, all of which are funded by our plant sales. We propagate our plants and offer them to the public twice a year, and thereby earn enough money to fund our operating expenses in the provision of educational services. Our sales have always taken place on the Ira Nelson Horticulture Center and ULL. Thanks in part to their generosity, we've become leading Master Gardener program in the state of Louisiana. Presenting. Oh, it's not. I think we have a little technical delay. We were hoping to show you slides and pictures of the Plant Fest in case you missed it. We did capture a lot of interesting images that I think you'd enjoy if we were able to do this, but should we go forward? Okay. This year we were given the opportunity to expand our fall plant sale at the horse farm, and the result was what we call Plant Fest. An estimated 5,000 citizens showed up to celebrate this brand new beginning. The results included not only record-breaking plant sales, but the creation of an all-encompassing community of nature enthusiasts who are eager to enjoy the beauty of the property which you secured on their behalf. We, the Master Gardeners, thank you for the opportunity to share your vision with the people we all serve. We are here this evening to share with you the joy derived from the overwhelming success of Plant Fest. Together with the Ag Center, we offered a variety of free, nature-based educational children's activities. With the leadership of the Ag Center, we also helped raise money for school gardens through the hard work of 4-H rent-a-kids who helped shoppers carry plants. We created a farmer's market to support local home gardeners who offered a wide range of goods from nature's bounty. And we partnered with locally owned restaurants which provided fresh, farm-to-table food and beverages. We showcased leading Ag Center experts who shared their university research-based advice in the fields of plant pathology, weed control, and ornamental plant selection. Every tent for every event was filled to capacity, including the opening remarks by Mayor Durrell, who spoke to an appreciative and eager crowd. We were proud to host the Writers Guild of Acadiana, which participated via 11 local authors of nature-related books for adults and children. Local musicians donated their time and talent to help set the tone for this uplifting celebration. 23 carefully selected artisans offered nature-related handmade goods, all locally made here in Acadiana. These are, well, the slide shows so many green groups. How many green groups? Probably 30 green groups all accepted our invitations to come out and share the experience and offer information to the public. Many of them reported signing up new members and securing volunteer support for their own community service programs. The local business community supported Plant Fest, and we're happy that Plant Fest supported them in return. Area businesses reported dramatic increases in sales during Plant Fest. The sheer number of people who agreed to participate as speakers, workshoppers, artisans, farmers market, vendors, musicians, and green group representatives is remarkable. The number of people who heard about the event and stopped what they were doing to show up and join the celebration is beyond our wildest dreams. We now know what we previously only dared to imagine. We live in a true and authentic nature-oriented community of generous, enthusiastic, creative, and joyful garden lovers who want what the Lafayette Master Gardeners can offer at the horse farm. 5,000 people enjoyed a Plant Fest that was created in 50 days. Just imagine what we can do with a year to prepare. In the meantime, we want to offer our help in future horse farm community events, such as Howdy at the Horse Farm, as a sign of our appreciation. We look forward to future opportunities to serve through educational outreach at the horse farm for many years to come. And for this, we thank you. Ready?
If you picked up on that, but they estimate about 5,000 people, and I would have to think that probably over the course of the last 100 years total, they probably have not had 5,000 people at the horse farm. Certainly the first time ever in its history that it's had that many people on that piece of property, and I think it gives us all just a little tiny taste, which is what that day for me was really all about getting you out there, was it gives Lafayette just a little taste of what that piece of property is going to mean to Lafayette. I had 3 people from 3 neighboring parishes independently come up to me and thank us for doing what we were doing out there that day. So, you know, even people from other parishes that came in here for your Plant Fest recognize how significant that piece of property is for all of Acadiana, because it really is important for all of Acadiana. I'll take advantage of this opportunity now because you mentioned Howdy to the Horse Farm. Saturday, October 27th, we are opening up the horse farm to the general public. And it's going to be a fairly simple day. It may not be as simple as I started out wanting it to be. There'll be a pumpkin patch out there, we now know, and there'll be some a couple of horses out there jumping barricades and whatever, and just to kind of give it a little bit of a theme. But the basic theme is bring your kids, bring your grandchildren, bring their cameras so they can take pictures of the horse farm today to show their children 20 or 30 years from now what the horse farm used to look like, because it's going to transform. We know that that is going to be it's going to be a much prettier gardens. It's going to be trails and biking trails, hiking trails, and lots of gardens, and just a beautiful, beautiful park. And I think it's the kind of place that, while I know you're taking, or some of you are taking a trip later on in October as a field trip. Where are you going? Where's it?
Shangri-La.
What's it called?
In Orange, Texas.
Orange, Texas. The day will come when people will come to Lafayette to visit this. I truly believe that. I think we'll have something that we all go on vacation to see sometimes. And the other thing I'll mention is on October the 25th, the night of the 25th, the evening of the 25th, there is a fundraiser that I'm sure each one of you will want to attend at $1,000 a couple. And I fully expect to get $1,000 from each one of you. So, but no, it is a first fundraiser. You are all invited, and we'll talk about discount plans. But it is an opportunity, and I think it's a first opportunity and an important opportunity to show and to continue this kind of enthusiasm and to start that fundraising effort. We really think we can raise as much as $500,000 that night, and while that's a lot of money, we need $20 to $30 million. So it's a beginning, but I think it's a significant beginning. And the enthusiasm that I've heard just about that fundraiser, as expensive as it is pretty exciting to me. And I think when we get this thing turned over to the Community Foundation and to help with the fundraising, we'll see it take on a whole new level. So thank you all for what you did out there. I think if nobody, you only get one shot at a first impression. And y'all made a great first impression for the horse farm. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
One second. Oh, we have a councilman that wishes to speak. Councilman Bertrand.
Oh, thank you. I just want to tell you thank you. I was there that day, and it was an amazing crowd, and everyone was having such a great time. It was a beautiful day, and as Joey said, it was just an example of probably the clamoring to come to enjoy the horse farm, and you all did a great job, and everybody that participated really did, and it was amazing to me the numbers of people that showed up, and really appreciate you and you're getting the word out and exposing folks to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Blue sheets are available for anyone wishing to address the council in the foyer. The 5-minute rule is in effect, and please read the resolution.
Resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council approving the proposed sale, issuance, and deliverance of not exceeding $17 million Lafayette Public Trust Financing Authority Revenue Refunding Bonds, Raging Cajun Facilities Incorporated Project, Series 2012, in one or more series.
I have a motion by Councilman Bertrand. I have a second by Councilman Andy Nachkamp. Councilman Terrio.
Do we have anybody from the LPTFA here tonight? I'm going to read something. I'll read something just to clarify. I had a couple of, just 2 phone calls on this, and there was some question about this, but let me read what we have that was given to the council on dealing with the resolution. Under Section 2, it says, let me preface it by saying the questions were what monies would be involved with the $17 million, and is anything coming from LCG? Section 2 states the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government and Lafayette City Parish Council shall not be liable in any manner for the payment of the refunding bonds, and no funds of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government or the Lafayette City Parish Council shall be pledged to the payment thereof. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how will the refunding bonds be paid off?
They're revenue bonds. This actually is a refunding of bonds that the LPTFA issued in 2002 for ULL. Legacy Park, the new dorms that you may have remembered that took place a number of years ago prior to this recent construction. These are, the bonds are repaid through a revenue stream that's generated between a lease agreement between Raging Cajun Facilities and the Board of Regents, basically, but the school system, the university system. And that's what secures the repayment of the bonds. They're not general obligation bonds. No money comes from LCG. No money comes from any tax dollars. No money comes from any government entity that's in this room. This again is a refunding bond. It's basically, that's bond parlance for a refinance. The purpose of these bonds is to refund and lower the rate on the balance of the existing bonds issued in 2002. And I believe the financial models show that this will save ULL, who's a direct beneficiary of this activity, somewhere north of $1 million, $1.1 million, $1.2 million in debt service once this refunding takes place. So that's what the purpose of it is.
Absolutely, that's all I need. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other council discussion, Ms. Dugan, any blue cards? And please call for the vote.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
Approved.
We'll now move to final adoption zoning. This is a public hearing. Blue sheets are available for anyone wishing to address the council. The 5-minute rule is in effect. And please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 164, 2012 has been deferred. Ordinance 192, 2012, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance so as to reclassify the property of Upper Lafayette Development Company, LLC, case number ZON 2012-0016, Corrette Farm Development property rezoning located generally south of East Point and Mouton Road and west of Interstate Highway 49 from R1C Single and Two-Family Residential, BT Transitional Business, and GAD Growth Area District to TND Traditional Neighborhood New Urbanist Development.
I have a motion by Councilman Terrio. A second by Councilman Andy Nakhan. Councilman Shelvin.
Thank you, sir. Eleanor, Jim, I think you guys may be able to help me with this question. The TIF that was in that area, Katy in the Hills?
I am not familiar with that TIF enough to answer you.
There we go. You here with the LCG?
Yes, I'm sorry, Richard. Should have changed my tie, at least. This isn't, that's unrelated. The proposed TIF.
I know it's unrelated, but I'm just asking that question. There were some issues with that TIF.
The issue that I'm aware of, this was a proposed TIF that was near this area. The issue I'm aware of, and I did work on it for and on behalf of LCG, was after the TIF was put together, when it was time to monetize it, the total construction cost exceeded the revenue stream that was generated by the monetizing. We on behalf of LCG had said from the beginning of the process, I mean even probably before the beginning, that the government was not going to underwrite any cost of the TIF. It wasn't going to contribute any funds. And after 3 or 4 months of going back and forth, somebody said, well, we need 10 more million. So we're all, who? So it kind of went away. I mean, I don't really know.
And this was under the original Corrette deal.
No, that had nothing to do with this particular piece of
property. I know
property.
not this particular deal, but I remember, was it about a year ago, there was some discussion about the TIF that was there, and there was some money that was sitting in an account that, yeah. What is it? Mr. Stanley, can you help me out with that? Are you familiar with that?
On the TIF, on
Yes.
the one, yeah.
Yes.
As I remember, that was the TIF that expired, or at least the TIF boundaries do not expire, but the collection of taxes within the TIF.
What were those boundaries?
It is you're going to have to get a map, because it's carefully calculated.
But Acadian and Hills was in that, correct? I remember.
Acadian Hills proper was in the
Yeah.
TIF. Jay is shaking his head, and I would defer to him. I think that is correct. But I do not believe, I don't know that Corrette Place was, or just the front piece that fronts on the highway. We'd have to go back and check the map. But regardless, no tax can be collected on that TIF unless it comes back to the council.
I understand. I just remember that there being a TIF there, and it wasn't. We had money sitting there. I think you guys said what, 1.1 million or something. Pardon me?
Let me clear that for you?
Yes, please, sir.
Mr. Castillo?
Thank you, sir. Let me clarify that for some of the guys on this council. There was a TIF in place, and it was for the Caden Hills Drive area. The correct place wasn't involved in the TIF itself. There was money collected from a couple of businesses on that stretch, and there's a drainage project that is being done to that area, in the TIF area. So it's not outside of the TIF area that the work's being done. And I want to say it was about 150,000, maybe 200,000 in that account. If it had been $1 million, we'd have fixed a big major cooler issue we had right there. So it's only 150,000. It's being spent on that little drainage project, and it's not being collected anymore.
So the TIF is not being collected anymore?
No, sir.
Okay.
And the correct property before you right now was not in that TIF?
I understand.
Okay.
I just remember it being in that area. Who has those boundaries?
We can get that from the ordinance itself, but the reason that it's no longer being collected is the term language in the TIF documents required that it expire, I believe, on an October 1st expiration was the opinion of legal counsel, because no bonds had been authorized or levied to where debt service would be paid.
Right.
And so the question was raised, the TIF boundaries do not expire. The TIF is still in place. The council created the TIF. What expired was the ability to levy a tax within those boundaries. So in order to do that, it would have to come back to the governing authority, which is you guys, before that could happen again.
Could you provide me a copy of those boundaries?
I'm looking for it now. I may have it.
And any other council member?
Let's move to the ordinance. Is the TIF affect this ordinance at all? So if you can, let's get back on the ordinance.
Yeah, I don't have to sign a blue card, man. What are you talking about? You're on the ordinance.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Let's move forward on the ordinance.
But Jared, as a elected official that you and I are equal to, I can pretty much talk about what I want.
I'm just asking so we can move the meeting along. If you could just get back on ordinance, you are correct.
Right.
Thank you.
But I'm not done though.
You still have the floor.
Thank you, sir. D, you going to be able to give me those boundaries on the TIF?
I think I may have them here. I'll give that to you shortly.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm done.
No problem. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Dugan, any blue cards?
Robert Daigle.
I'm Robert Daigle with the developer group for Upper Lafayette Development. I guess I'm here basically to answer any questions that you may have. You may have read something about the project. We're finalizing the master plan, and we're pretty excited about moving into the northern part of the city with this project. We have 2 successful T&Ds in the southern part of the parish. Never thought I'd get an opportunity to do a third one within Lafayette Parish, but couldn't pass up the opportunity or the location. So Brandon and I visited before this meeting. This project is in his district, and I told him that certainly whatever we do there, we feel he'd be proud to have within his district, and I think he'll be proud to have what we develop within our overall community. So if I can answer any questions that any of you have, I'll be glad to try to do it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bethany Skinner.
Hi, great council. Happy Tuesday. I have a question in regards to this. So maybe I could have Mr. Daigle come back? Yes, sir.
No, if you don't mind, Ms. Skinner.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm Stephanie Skinner for the record.
You have to address the council.
Okay, I'm Stephanie Skinner for the record.
Okay.
And I have a question. What is new urbanist development? What is that? Does anybody know what that is?
Someone from Planning and Zoning want to explain that?
The T&D is generally a mixed-use development, allowing different uses to exist together in a planned development. Minimum acreage is 50 acres. This development, I believe, is near about 126 acres. It will include common areas, parks,
Okay.
businesses, and residences.
Yes, sir.
All mixed together.
Yes, sir. So it's gonna be very nice, correct? Awesome, nice?
Mr. Daigle has, I'm sure it will be.
Okay, I just want to make sure that none of this has anything to do with Agenda 21, because we know that around America, they are taking parks and lands and people's property. So I just want to keep an eye on, and that's my only question, if this is not any part of that.
Our ordinance does not address Agenda 21 in any way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Dugas, any other speakers?
No, sir.
And please call for the vote.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
Approved. Ordinance 193, 2012, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance so as to assign a zoning classification to property annexed by ordinance number 117, 2012, case number ZON 2012-0017, 2623 Cameron Street annexation, located generally north and south of Cameron Street and east of Macon Road.
Motion by Councilman Bertrand, second by Councilman Terrio. Any council discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Dugas, any blue cards? And please call for the vote.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
Approved. Item 9, briefing on Chapter 74, Solid Waste of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government Code of Ordinance.
Who from Public Works would start the briefing?
Actually, I'm going to kind of sit back. We've got David McCrory, our attorney here, who's been working with us for some time now to look at the content of Chapter 74. There are quite a few things that needed to have been modified over the years, kind of merging some of the city codes, some of the parish codes, and some of the other issues that have come up over the years. So Mark Pope will also be here to answer questions, and I'll be here, but we're going to let David conduct this and talk about what we've got as proposed changes.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Chairman, council members, my name is David McCrory. I'm the attorney that's been primarily responsible for working with Mike Hebert in Public Works over the last couple of years, trying to come up with a revised Chapter 74. Norma, have the council members been provided with a copy of the revised chapter? Okay, you have in front of you a copy of the revised chapter as well as a summary that sets forth some of the key changes that were made. Before we go through some of those key changes, I'd like to, I guess, give you an overview and briefly explain the main reason why it was felt that a new Chapter 74 needed to be developed. First of all, as currently drafted, the existing Chapter 74 is broken up into 4 different articles. The first article deals primarily with general topics like definitions and authority of public works. The second deals with littering. The third deals with waste management within the city. And the fourth deals with waste management in the unincorporated areas of the parish. The problem with the existing chapter is that you have 2 separate articles. Article 3, which deals with waste management within the city. You have a separate article in Article 4 that deals with waste management in the parish. And inevitably, what happens when you have 2 separate articles dealing with the same thing is there's inconsistencies between those 2 articles. And so the main reason that an effort was undertaken to revise the chapter was to make it more consistent. Some of the specific changes that were made to Chapter 74, and I'm starting on item number 1 in the summary of proposed changes that you have in front of you. First of all, and you know, this may seem somewhat immaterial, but over the years, what happens is you have a chapter that was put in place. It's sort of a hodgepodge, because at one time you had the city separate from the parish, and then it's put together. And so you have a collection of definitions, some of which are now outdated. At the time that the ordinance was originally, or the chapter was originally enacted, obviously there was no automated waste service. Now there is. So one of the efforts in revising the Chapter 74 was to include modern terminology and to eliminate any obsolete terminology. To give you an example, one of the definitions in the existing chapter relates to container for solid waste. The definition reads as follows. Container for solid waste means a receptacle with a capacity of greater than 3 gallons but no greater than 35 gallons, constructed of plastic, metal, or fiberglass, having handles of adequate strength for lifting and having a tight-fitting lid capable of preventing entrance into the container by vectors. The mouth of the container shall have a diameter greater than or equal to that of its base. The weight of the container and its contents shall not exceed 75 pounds. Well, obviously, today with automated service, metal containers are no longer being used in collecting solid waste. One of the other things we tried to do is we found in the existing Chapter 74 that there were a lot of specific items included within the chapter. For example, weights or different weight requirements, length requirements, those sorts of things. We tried to put more general provisions in place so that those specific items could be dealt with in the contract that exists between LCG and the contractor that is currently contracted to pick up solid waste within the city parish. The next 4 items that are listed on the summary of proposed changes sort of interrelate. And one of the biggest problems I think the existing Chapter 74 has is the inconsistency between the penalty provisions. For example, there are specific penalty provisions that relate to violations of the chapter within the city. I can briefly read an example of the city provision, and it's fairly ambiguous. It simply states, citations may be issued for violation of this article by the Director of the Public Works Department. Such citations shall be presented to the city parish attorney for proper disposition. So, that in and of itself doesn't tell you a lot. Now, arguably, what would happen is the general penalties within the Code of Ordinance itself would apply, but if you look at those general penalties, if you look at separate general penalties which are in place for the parish, all of them require court action. Everything, the fines that are currently listed, they have, for example, $500 fine listed for a violation in the unincorporated areas currently exists, but all the violations require action by the court. It's only upon conviction of an individual that the penalty can be assessed. So one of the things that Public Works wanted to try to do was, 1, have a uniform set of penalties. 2, try to get around the fact that everything in the existing code, for the most part, requires court action. And 3, try to put it all together in one place so it was easier for the residents to understand and easier for the department to enforce. What we have in the revised code, if you'll turn to it's going to be section 7423 in the revised code. And I'll briefly go through the enforcement provisions that are put in the new code and explain some of the rationale behind them. First of all, and I'll give everybody a second to get there.
What line number is it?
It's going to be page 6. Starting towards the bottom of page 6, it's going to be section 7423. And you'll see, starting with subsection A, there is a general penalty provision for a violation of any of the provisions within the chapter itself. So no longer do you have to figure out, okay, we have a violation. Where did it occur? What is the penalty going to be? Is it going to be the penalties that apply in the unincorporated areas, or is it going to be the penalties that apply in the city? These penalty provisions apply regardless of where the violation occurs. The first violation gives Public Works the ability to give a resident notice, and if the violation is not complied with within 7 days, Public Works has the authority to hire an independent contractor to abate the violation and then to invoice the resident for the cost of that abatement. You'll also see in the second paragraph in subsection A that if there are repeat violations of the code, it gives Public Works the authority to assess a $25 fine in addition to invoicing the resident for the cost of the abatement. Now, below that, there were certain items that Public Works, and I think some of the council members were more concerned about, one of which was non-payment of mandatory solid waste service. So you'll see in the revised Chapter 74, there is a specific penalty provision which relates to individuals who fail to acquire mandatory solid waste service. And the penalty in that case is, after receiving 30-day notice of a violation, a fine of $50 per day can be assessed up to a maximum of 30 days. Now that applies to residential units who don't sign up for the service, and in subsection C there's a similar provision for commercial units that don't have an appropriate container for solid waste disposal. Below that, you'll see there's a reference in subsection D and E to civil remedies and other penalties. Those are some of the same provisions that currently exist in the Chapter 74 today. The revised chapter keeps those penalties in place, but it adds the penalties that we just discussed, which gives Public Works a little more flexibility in addressing some of the situations that come up on a pretty regular basis. One of the other provisions that was changed in the existing chapter relates to responding to an emergency. In the current Chapter 74, and I'll break it up into, again, we have that separation between city and parish. There are provisions, emergency provisions, which relate to actions that happen within the city. There's a separate set of emergency provisions that pertain to actions which happen in the unincorporated areas of the parish. Interestingly, the emergency provisions within the city are specifically listed under the sections dealing with littering and open burning. There's no general emergency provision that's set forth within the city provisions. In the provisions dealing with the unincorporated areas of the parish, there is a more general emergency provision, but as do the other provisions within the city, they all in essence require consolidated government to obtain injunctive relief. And so again, LCG runs into a situation where you have an emergency, and in order to abate that emergency, you're going to have to get action from a court. You know, obviously emergencies can happen, don't necessarily happen during work hours. Even if a judge were available, it could take hours to get an injunction, which makes the existing provisions less effective. The revised Chapter 74 includes an emergency provision. It is Section 7425, and I'll give you a page number. On page 8. And basically what it does is it provides for one general emergency provision that applies to emergencies both within the city and within the unincorporated areas of the parish. And what it also does in the existing provisions, the existing emergency provisions can be implicated solely by the environmental services manager. In the revised provision that is included in the draft of the Chapter 74 you have, it would basically require the Public Works Director and the Environmental Quality Manager to agree that emergency existed, and it would also provide for approval by the city parish attorney. The benefit here is that it would allow Public Works to immediately address a problem, whereas the existing provisions require Public Works to get some sort of court action. One of the other recurring problems that Public Works wanted to address was an issue with residents who leave carts at the curb after pickup. In the existing Chapter 74, it's unclear as to what the penalty is if someone violates that particular provision. Obviously, as we already discussed, if it's violated in the unincorporated areas of the parish, in the city, there may be different provisions which apply. So a penalty provision was included in the revised Chapter 74, which deals specifically with failure to pick up a cart from the roadside. And if you turn to page 10 in the proposed Chapter 74, and it's under paragraph number 3, and I'm going to start reading about the third sentence because I think that'll give you an idea of the provision. And it states that within 24 hours of the container being emptied on the regularly scheduled service day, the container must be brought within 3 feet of the resident's home to which they are assigned, except for residents located in the rural area that live outside of a subdivision, who are only required to move the container back at least 10 feet from where the street meets the resident's property. Failure to comply with the particular provision gives the Department of Public Works, it authorizes them to charge the owner a fee of $25 if they do not comply. This is similar to what's included in the existing Chapter 74, except for the addition of the $25 penalty. And it was further clarified to give some flexibility to those individuals who live in the unincorporated area who don't necessarily live in the subdivision. And it may be difficult if they have a house that has a long driveway or road for them to bring the cart back and forth. It allows for those particular individuals to leave the cart within 10 feet of the road. The final revision, and I won't say revision, but it was more inclusion of the provision in the revised Chapter 74. It's currently located in a different chapter, deals with tree trimming, cutting, and removal. Previously, it was in Chapter 78. A lot of the issues that arise with tree trimming and cutting obviously come into play with waste removal, as Mr. Guidry stated earlier. So it was thought by Public Works that it made sense to bring that particular provision within the chapter that deals with waste management. And that section has been added on page 17 of the revised Chapter 74. So those, I would say those are probably the main revisions that were made to the existing chapter. But once again, the overall idea was to try to have a consistent set of provisions that applies equally regardless of whether or not a resident lives within the city or unincorporated areas of the parish. If any council member has a question, I'd be happy to try to answer.
We do have several. On 7432, page 10, where if you don't within 24 hours bring your cart back either 3 foot if you live in the city or 10 foot you live in the parish, what kind of personnel do we have to go and put out fines if someone doesn't put out their cart? I don't, why is that established? And then in that, it says in 30 calendar days, then you're going to file a mortgage. I mean, the amount of the invoice shall be recorded in the mortgage office of Lafayette Parish, and then a lien can be, against the property. I need someone with either Public Works or the administration. I don't know who handled this, but to me, I don't think we have the personnel to have someone to go see in 24 hours if a cart's put up properly, and then who's going to fine them. It just seems very nitpicky. I'm just curious of why that's there.
Let me take a crack at it first. You'll remember when the complaints first came, the city parish president put forth the issues with this ordinance was that it did not have any teeth or its enforceability was difficult. And that the council indicated at that time, some council members, bring it to us and we'll put the teeth in it. So that's one of the things that's being done. Outside of the generic penalty provision of all ordinances, which are misdemeanors, and I would defer to Mr. Hebert, but as I recall, that could incur a fine of up to $500 a day and or jail time. Well, if this is teeth, then what would the generic teeth be in the ordinance? Nobody felt like that was appropriate. So we went to legal counsel, and that's the purpose of the discussion. What teeth the council decides to put in it. Mr. Bellard raises some significant questions, certainly regarding who will be the CAN police. Will it be the Environmental Services Division of Public Works? Will it eventually end up with the police department, although certainly an officer could take a complaint and presumably write a citation as he would for any violation of municipal ordinance? But you are now in the middle of the discussion that we've had about the difficulty of enforcing this provision, regardless of what you end up amending the code to be.
Okay, and I guess I didn't know this was a big problem. Obviously, you're saying it is. And I guess
it is a big problem if you live in certain areas. It is, including one right up against your district, is right where your district is. As you know, some of it involves commercial, some of it involves apartments, some of it involves individuals who just aren't being good neighbors. So it certainly is a big problem if you're the person who lives next door to the problem.
Okay, because I don't see putting a lien on someone's property if you're not 3 feet away. I don't understand how we're going to police this with the people that we have now that are maximized at full potential. And then the fine amount, I mean, and I'm just throwing this out there because this is just a discussion. You know, fine them $100 a month until it reaches that $500. But to sit there and I'm just throwing that out there, but to say you're going to put a lien on your property because I didn't move my trash can.
The decision on what the penalty will be the council's, and the responsibility of enforcing the council's policy and the code as adopted will be the administration's. So again, valid questions. Is the problem widespread? I would think probably not. It's widespread geographically, but it's not something that we get daily complaints on. We do get more targeted complaints where the problem is more concentrated, and we're attempting to deal with that, through amendments to the code.
And I'll end with this because the other council members want to speak. One of the things that I kind of want to watch while we're doing this is putting more laws on the books that we can't enforce. I do not know, and maybe you can help us, do we have the manpower to enforce this? Or is it going to be just when someone calls and complain, you're going to watch them for 24 hours and then go assess a fine? I don't want it to be where all of a sudden we're taking personnel to go see if your cart's the proper feet off of the road.
I don't think if you're asking me as an administrator whether I envision a cart patrol, I do not. I do envision if a council member or a citizen refers a complaint to the proper agency, then we will make a decision on which person, which human being to dispatch to that complaint. An evaluation and a decision will be made at that time as it relates to the code. We certainly have the ability to and the manpower to respond to complaints once the code is fixed upon recommendation of council. We certainly do not have, and it's probably not necessary, to have the manpower to do a patrol, a cart patrol.
Thank you. Councilman Bertrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, like you, am not interested in an ordinance that we can't enforce. However, I do have such an area, at least one in my district, and it usually comes in an area where we have absentee ownership. And what used to be solely owned and lived in by the owners is now either rented out, and the owners don't live in the area, the owners don't follow up, or at least for the most part, and what we end up having is an area that eventually becomes blighted. I mean, it's just a one-step to the next process. We have an area specifically that I'm concerned about in my district that has this problem. There doesn't seem to be any desire by many of the people who live in the district to do anything about it.